Good morning and welcome to my June 13th, 2026. This is video number 13, and in this video I'm going to go over the introduction to my book, Judgment Day and Thereafter. Now, a really important thing to remember is that this is not fiction. Judgment Day and Thereafter is not fiction. It's based on two experiences I had where I was receiving memories with the help of God about my life in everlasting life. And what I learned during those experiences is that the entire universe is everlasting life. Jesus is everlasting life, except for the earth. Earth is not part of everlasting life yet. And why that is, of course, I explain. So I don't want this video to be too lengthy, so I'm going to get right into it. Introduction. God is ruler of the universe and rules the universe with just one law, known by everyone in the universe as the one law. Thou shalt not prevent nor hinder the free will of anyone. Thou shalt not enslave anyone to your will. God does not allow us to enslave each other. So during my second awakening, as I was driving home from work, I had the memory. Remember, my experiences were never that I was seeing or hearing things. It was always through memories. I had the memory of God saying, when you get home, start writing. And I just thought, well, okay. Um, I'm not sure what I'm going to write, but I can do that. And so I got home and started writing. And then I had the memory of God saying, remember the one law. And I was like, the one law? What's the one law? But then as I started writing, it came to me just like word for word. Thou shalt not prevent nor hinder the free will of anyone. Thou shalt not enslave anyone to your will. So you are not allowed to prevent somebody from doing what they want to do with their life. You're not allowed to stop them from what they are doing with their life. And you're not allowed to enslave anybody to your will. So because we are infant intelligence, we are without the presence of God in our lives. Thus, we have the intelligence virus. The intelligence virus is any kind of thinking and believing that hurting someone physically, mentally, or financially is okay. The intelligence virus goes against God's one law. Therefore, the intelligence virus is always a lie. It is a lie that hurting someone physically, mentally, or financially is okay. Know that God follows the one law himself as well. God exists by it. This is why you have free will and why God appears to be absent, although God is never absent when you seek your Creator. So, to have free will means free will from God, and then that passes on to us, that we have free will from each other. And God exists by this as well. God exists by the one law. And that's why I always say that my two experiences I had were all designed around my free will. So it's really important that you understand that everything that I had happened to me, God prepared me for, asked verbally for my permission to happen to me. And I gave that permission. And of course, you're wondering, well, when and how? And of course, I explain that as we go along. So seek your Creator is true in everlasting life as well. It will be as it is now, that God is absent from our lives and we do not have a metaphysical connection to God, yet we all know that God is real because of how God communicates with all of us, either of these two ways: face to God's infinite image within this physical universe in real time, or soul to God's infinite image within God's dimension outside of our universe and time. Either way, we communicate with God verbally. So that means we do not experience metaphysical connection to God. Like people have said, I'm sure you're familiar with this, where they say, I felt God's love. I was filled with the Holy Spirit. I was, telepathically connected to God. None of that is real, because that would break the one law. So feeling somebody else's feelings is breaking God's one law, because they're not your feelings. You're not feeling them. They're not yours. They're not real to you. So that never happened to me. I was never ever had any kind of a metaphysical connection to God. And by the way, there's no such thing as the Holy Spirit. I'll get into that another time. So God's infinite image is the image God chose for itself when God chose itself to be creator and parent. God could have chosen the image of anything, but God chose to look like us. And then God had to choose mother or father. God chose father. Thus, God gained the pronoun he. And I capitalize he because it is not a real pronoun. It is part of God's infinite image, because God is not a person, God is not a man, and God does not have gender. He is a part of the God's infinite image. So again, God designed us. God knows us, and he knew that we were going to need to have an image of what it is. So God is not a person. God is an entity that exists outside of our physical universe in its own dimension, and I'll talk about that later. And God knew us and knew we were going to need to have an image of what he is, and then God chose to look like us. Isn't that funny? We always thought that our physical being was in the image of God, but that's not the case at all. It's the other way around. God's image is in our image, but we are in the image of God in that we are intelligence. God is infinite intelligence. We are like binary intelligence. That's what makes us God's children. We do what God does. We use words to communicate. And God also uses words to communicate. And that's how we are in the image of God. So we are in the image of God in that we are intelligence. That makes God our intelligence Father. So in everlasting life, we don't call God God, we call God Father. And intelligence is words. That means God is word, Jesus is word, and we are word as well. So when in the Bible it says, I am word, I believe it was to say I am intelligence before the word intelligence even was invented. So all life is intelligence because all life communicates, but we are intelligence with a capital I. We communicate in the image of God. We communicate on the same level. We're just as smart as God is. We're so smart that we understand how God created the universe. So again, God is like infinity intelligence. He has an infinite number of thoughts and can think them all at the same time individually, whereas we are limited to one thought at a time. So again, God has free will and we have free will. As creator and parent, God takes care of us through the universe. So God always adds, always creates, and this pertains to matter. So at every universe cycle at the beginning, God always adds matter and always creates new life solar systems for us. So once infinite intelligence planets are added to the universe, then God chooses to exist in the present with us, meaning he does not look at the future, except when we want to know the gender of our baby. So in EL, We don't have prenatal care. We don't need it. Pregnancies are always by the book. And therefore, we don't have technology. We could have it, but we don't, to help us see the sex of the baby. So if you want to know whether you're having a boy or a girl, you call Father, and that's when Father will look at the future, and Father is never wrong. And you will understand once infant intelligence planets come into existence. You will understand that in a bit. So God leaves us alone to live our lives, and it is only when we seek the Creator that God is in our life. So God chooses himself to be creator all the time, at every moment. So the fastest frame rate, you can say, of the universe is Planck time. At every single Planck time, God holds the universe together. What that means is that God has to exist in order for our universe to exist. Otherwise, the universe would fall apart somehow. I explain that more later. So God exists in everlasting life with us as Father, and does not look at the future, and does not use any powers, does not partake in any way with the universe and what happens in the universe physically. So I'm talking about God does not change the weather. God does not do anything. God does not partake in our lives unless we seek him, unless we say out loud, Father, I wish to speak with you. And then only God is there like an ear and to give us advice, guide us, raise our children. And there's no powers being used until an infant intelligence planet evolves. And then God assumes the God task. And that is when Father becomes God for that temporary time of that planet. I will explain that more when I make the video about God, what the God task is. It's really complex, and it'll show you just how involved God is in raising his infant intelligence children. So yes, no God, that God is all powerful, and when God looks at the future, he can see the outcome of every outcome. And then he uses strategic placement of us from everlasting life to guide his infant intelligence to everlasting life and make discoveries. So all that's needed when God raises his infant intelligence, it is always toward the goal of becoming technologically advanced and having today's technology. And then the awakening era always happens. That's the only requirement, is technology. And for Earth, this has taken way too long, 2,000 years after Jesus. On most infant intelligence planets, it's about average 500 years after Jesus that they have today's technology. It's just that the intelligence virus, slavery, is very, very prevalent on the Earth. And so, of course, this includes mental slavery, where prevention of knowledge in sciences, there was a lot of setbacks, a lot of book burning. And so the Earth is behind by 1,500 years. So all alien intelligence are human beings just like us. That's who's in the spaceships. It's just people. There's no Hollywood aliens. There are hundreds of races in the universe. Though, I mean, there's always going to be repetitions. It's whatever the human DNA allows, which means that on Judgment Day, when it's Judgment Day is a day of first contact, on a scale that you'll never forget if you wake up on Judgment Day, uh, you might be able to find your soulmate who's from another planet. I mean, he or she will just be a human being, but technically, yes, they're aliens. And then you'll marry them and have children with them. So, soulmates are real, and this is a gift from God. I never believed in soulmates before my experience. Never. I thought that people just got together and made a conscious decision to get along and work together and love each other. I never believed in soulmates, but soulmates are real. God's children have souls. So our souls is how we are children to God. Our souls exist outside of this physical universe in God's dimension. And that's the only thing that exists in God's dimension is God and us. And during my first awakening, I asked God about that, what our souls look like. And God said, our souls look like stars to Him. And how God knows that you're seeking Him is that it'll shine brighter. And there's no heaven, there's no hell, there's no angels that exist with God. God does not need angels. And God never rests, by the way. Like I said before, at every moment that the universe exists, it exists because our Father is holding it together, making it possible to exist. So, God's children are souls. Your soul is basically like a universe-sized, you can imagine like a SD disk where all of your memories and thoughts come from and are stored. I name this physical location for your soul your unimindverse. It's a universe for your mind. So that means that upon a destruction of your vessel in the physical universe, you are safe because your soul is safe in God's dimension. That's how God designed it. And of course, that's how God is able to resurrect. God is all powerful. And God showed us that because God created His Son, Jesus, through His power of being able to do that, to create a human being. But know that God only did this once and will never ever do it again. So there will only ever be one Jesus. And this is how Jesus is very special. I'll talk more about Jesus in a bit. So souls are genderless. Your soul does not have a gender. And your biology has gender because it's real life and we'll want to have children, right? So our universe is how we experience real life. Physicality and physics is what makes that life real. So on that point, I know that there's a lot of videos about scientists saying that, the universe is a hologram, and, the reality might be in a way as we would think of it as holographic, but it is real. It is a real life universe. It's as real as it can get. So when God decided to have children, souls, God decided that its children would experience a real existence and would be real. And then God created the universe. and entangled our souls into our biology. And that is how we experience our lives, the physical life. And that's what we love. We love the physical life. So souls cannot penetrate. There's no telepathy. So think about people who've had NDEs. When their soul was withdrawn into their uni-mindverse, into that place outside of this dimension, outside of this universe, into their uni-mindverse. So I lost my track of thought there. Then they've always had these experiences, right? And the thing is that I remember the experience of at the end of a universe cycle, when God restarts, recreates, reprograms the universe. And remember, at every universe cycle, God always adds, always creates. So at every universe cycle, there's always new planets, new solar systems. So I remember the experience of being within my uni-mindverse, and within your uni-mindverse, it is like lucid dreaming. So it's always going to be based on what you know, right? What you've experienced, your thoughts. And therefore the experience is, I don't want to say like a dream. It is like a lucid dream where you create the reality within your uni-mindverse. And that means you can experience things such as telepathy. You can experience talking to Jesus, and things that people have said they've experienced. And that does not make reality. That is merely the experience of being within your soul. It's a lonely experience. Therefore, we don't actually like it when God has to restart the universe and we are withdrawn into our souls and we know we're alone. So you can have conversations with people within your soul, and but you're talking to yourself. You're talking for them as well. So this is why God created the universe for us, so that we can communicate and share. So the universe exists for us. And the universe is everlasting life. And God calls everlasting life the happiness formula. So God formulated everlasting life to make us happy. So you are not your vessel. You are your soul. Your body is not your temple. Your intelligence is. Your soul is your temple. Your body is a vessel for your intelligence. So therefore, take care of your body so you take care of your mind. So we are in the image of God, in that we are creators and we are parents. And that means God does not create new souls. When we have a baby and that new soul is born, we created that soul. God does not create anybody. I know we're always thinking that God does everything and basically we're just there, and then God does everything, like create our children and make people do things or not do things, and make people believe things and not believe things, and things like that. But that's not the case at all. So we are parents, just like God, and God creates biological intelligence. Biological intelligence creates AI. AI just represents tools. In that way, we are creators, just like God. That is how we are in God's image. So infant intelligence planets exist because even though the universe seems infinite, it isn't, and everlasting life still needs that DNA variety that infant worlds provide. What infant intelligence also add to everlasting life is all the fun stuff that we love in everlasting life, like music, art, architecture, and other kinds of designs and fashion. So, creativity. This means that our infant intelligence planet Earth is not part of everlasting life yet, but it will join EL on Judgment Day. So the reason we are without God as infant intelligence is because of free will. So we are left alone to evolve. But this only happens once per universe cycle. So there's only one planet, one time in a universe cycle. That is an infant intelligence planet. The rest of the time, it's EL. So once Earth joins everlasting life, it will be for infinity. So you're wondering how, physically with the sun expiring, all that stuff. Don't worry about that. God takes care of our everlasting life. Once something is added to everlasting life, it is there for infinity. So the God task during the infant intelligence state of a planet is when God raises his infant intelligence with the help of us from everlasting life. That is how God intervenes. That is how God has influence over the evolution of his infant intelligence. So it is people from everlasting life that choose themselves. God does not choose anybody, again, because of free will. You have to choose yourself. You put your hand up, basically. You say, Father, I wish to speak with you. And then Father will say, then you'll say, Father, I want to help you raise infant intelligence. And Father will say, okay. And then I'll explain what happens after that. But we choose ourselves, and Jesus has to choose himself for what he does on every single infant intelligence planet. Jesus is born to teach and to point about the real creator and what to do, how to think, and how to feel, and choose yourself for everlasting life. So also when we are born here from EL, and we never know that we're from everlasting life. God guides us with our permission, even compels us. Again, I will talk about the process later, because when I say compel, that would go against God's one law. But remember, we always give God permission. And then we help infant intelligence with things even like developing language, making discoveries, setting up governments even. And and again, the end result is always technology. This is why Jesus said, challenge authority, because slaves cannot make discoveries. They're in survival mode. So when we're born here, we also have the intelligence virus. We have no memory of everlasting life. But God guides us throughout a life, and I'll talk about that in the book, in my experience. So Jesus is born on every single infant intelligence planet. So once per universe cycle, Jesus chooses himself for this. And other than that, Jesus lives in everlasting life with us because Jesus is human, just like us. And but Jesus has two gifts that God gave him, and I can't wait to tell you about those in a little while, though. So Jesus has his own completely unique DNA. Nobody in the entire universe is related to Jesus. So only God knows when Judgment Day will happen. Perhaps Jesus knows too. I don't know. But it will happen when every person that would have chosen themselves for everlasting life will self-redeem by doing a good deed. That is how you choose yourself for everlasting life. There is no religion to follow. There's no religious rites and rituals that you can take part in that will help you choose life instead of death. If you don't choose everlasting life, then it is death. That's the punishment. And the same way for us to, when we are from EL, once you are from EL, you always return to EL. That's a saying we have in everlasting life. So the way back for us to EL is same. Self-judge, self-redeem by doing good deeds. And know that God has never lost a child to the intelligence virus. So technology, that's all that's needed. Why? So that the awakener who is then born, who chooses themselves in everlasting life for this task, is then born and is able to communicate their knowledge about everlasting life through technology on a worldwide scale. So that's why technology is needed. So the awakening era happens so that as many people as possible choose themselves for everlasting life who would otherwise not have chosen themselves. And also so that when Judgment Day happens, if you do not wake up on Judgment Day, then it's not because God took your life. It's because you chose not to wake up. You chose death. So that is the purpose of the awakening era. And know that God wants, it doesn't matter what you've done in the past. If you self-judge and self-redeem, you will receive God's forgiveness and love. And you will receive every single gift that we get in everlasting life. So if you don't choose yourself, you will have ceased to have ever existed, because on Judgment Day, God will forget you. God has the power to forget. And then when we wake up in everlasting life upon our first sleep, from our first sleep, we will also forget you. And in that way, you will cease to have ever existed. So now I wonder if you're thinking about all those people who did heinous things in order to be notorious, but famous. Well, actually, they'll be forgotten. It's as if they never existed. It's kind of ironic. So don't think of Judgment Day as the Judgment Day from the Bible. Judgment Day is not a theatrical day. There's nothing religious that's going to be happening. Everything is about reality. And reality is aliens are real. Remember, again, they're just people, though. Aliens are real. They are all people from everlasting life. They have God's technology. That's why during the awakening era, they will show that technology and provide two of the signs that Judgment Day is near. And this is, of course, for the unbelievers, for the people who would otherwise not choose themselves. So there's already good people who don't have slaves and who do good deeds. That's the only way you can join everlasting life. But the awakening era happens for those who would otherwise take part in the intelligence virus until they will see what's happening, the 4 signs, and then they will think, oh, it's true. So then they let their slaves go and do good deeds. And then they wake up on Judgment Day. So Judgment Day is not a day of doom, just like in the Bible. It's a happy day. An exciting and fun day. So the 4 signs that Judgment Day is near always happen on every single infant intelligence planet. But the Earth is very bad. The intelligence virus is very, very prevalent, meaning slavery. And we see this through even technological slavery, censorship. And there's whole countries where the entire citizens of the country are slaves. Slavery is very, very prevalent. Information continues to be manipulated in order to enslave. And God knows the outcome of every outcome, and God knew this right at the beginning of this universe cycle. And God has decided to use his backup plan, which doesn't usually happen on infant worlds. There's no need for it. And that is to awaken all of us who are from everlasting life. All of you. You might be from everlasting life, just like me. I know, don't worry about believing it. I'm a very logical, cerebral person. If I was watching this, I would probably not. I'd be like, just like, oh, here we go, another thing, right? Like, this is what we need with everything that's going on. But I will explain how it will happen and what you should be doing if you experience the 3 or 4 physical signs that is God proving to you physically that you are from everlasting life, and it's nothing scary or anything like that. But the 4 signs that always happen on every infant world is lots and lots of UFO sightings. I have some footage of UFOs that I took myself, like Space Ferrari boat, which is a picture of a jet. That's zoomed in. When I zoomed in, this is the jet. And it's obviously some kind of a vehicle that does not exist, that nobody has designed. Even Mr. Elon Musk can't fly boats. And then there's UFO acrobats, flash UFO. In UFO acrobats, there's seashell UFO. All of that is real footage. I'm not computer savvy. I don't subscribe to AI generated videos or anything like that. Footage is me taking it from my deck. So please look at it frame by frame. There's going to be celestial anomalies. So that just means we're going to see things in space. And we're already seeing lots of activity of extra solar system objects. There's going to be supernova, and we've already seen a lot of kilonovas. There was, I think, 8 between 2018 and 2024 of stars we didn't even know were there. And we will discover the first planet with life on it. This always happens during the awakening era, is that infant intelligence discovers the first planet with life on it. But it will happen through the use of my video, UFO Acrobats. In UFO Acrobats, there are many, many UFOs that could be Space Ferrari boats because they're white and they have this blue light around them. And I'm taking a video of the jet, and they're in the screenshots, they form constellations. So we could be using those to find the first planet with life on it. And this is merely to provide extra proof that this is real and happening. So God will never be the face in the sky. There's never going to be anything religious happening to prove to you that God is real. But God wants you to know that God is real, that He is real. And that's why these happen. And this is always based on just physical reality. It's never anything religious. And then for Soul Speak, again, with the help of people from Everlasting Life, Soul Speak is sounds of technology produced by the spaceships. So more on that in the book. And the +1 sign is God will awaken all of you who are from Everlasting Life. And this is because the intelligence virus is just way too prevalent on the earth. And these 4 signs, people are in survival mode. Most of us are exhausted. It would be so easy to overlook this, that usually that's all that's needed on other infant intelligence planets. It would be so easy to just, I'm too tired, to pay attention to this, because we're just, a lot of us work 2 jobs, and then also we're just absorbed by the entertainment industry. So it would be really easy for a lot of people to not choose everlasting life, which is what God wants. God wants you. It doesn't matter what you've done in the past. And the thing is when you realize God is real, you will experience intense shame and guilt about things you've done, and then you will think you do not deserve everlasting life, possibly. But if you self-judge and then self-redeem just by simply helping people, and of course don't have slaves, you will wake up on Judgment Day. It doesn't matter who you believe God is. It doesn't matter what religion you are. God is not vain. God doesn't care if you think He's Buddha. If you self-judge and self-redeem by doing good deeds, of course you can't do good deeds and have slaves at the same time, right? Then you will wake up on Judgment Day. That's all that's needed. So God will awaken us, awaken you. I've experienced the 3 signs, even though I was already awakened. But I experienced the 4 physical signs that you are from everlasting life. So the three physical signs, they're really non-invasive. They're just gonna happen, and it's gonna happen on the opposite side of your dominant hand. So if you're right-handed, the 3 signs will happen on the left side. If you're left-handed, on the right. I'm right-handed. All of my signs were on the left side, and like I said, it's nothing intense, but there's gonna be a day, and I believe it'll be one on Christmas morning, but this will only happen once majority of people in the world are aware of what's happening. This means that my book, Judgment Day and Thereafter, has to be shared and read and spoken about. So once people are informed, one Christmas, and I'll get back to Christmas because it's very special. One Christmas, you will awaken, and you will awaken with memories that you are from everlasting life. And then, of course, you might think you might believe you're delusional. And this is why God, and you agreed to these, by the way, you gave God permission. You will have 3 physical signs. 1, in your eye, in your vision, there's going to be a grayed out spot. It's like a perfect circle, but it's not black. It was gray, I remember specifically. And it'll only last there like 30 seconds. 2, your hand will kind of like pins and needles. You will experience like vibration in your hand. And that lasted actually about a month, that one. It's like my left hand was reminding. The reason it happens on the opposite side is because your true existence in everlasting life is actually the opposite side handed that you are right now. So me, I'm right-handed, as Gareth is left. And it's like for a month, my left hand was reminding me to try writing, and I did. And yeah, you're probably thinking what I thought, which is when during my second awakening, when I remembered Askerith was left-handed, I was like, no, I'm right-handed. But so you're everything that you're thinking and you went through, I already went through that. So eye, hand, hip, 3 times you will experience like somebody's putting a hot heating pad on your hip. And for me, that happened all in the same day. All those 3 physical signs happened in the same day. The 4th one is that if you are married in everlasting life, and remember, God marries us. We're married by God in EL. Then you will experience your soulmate bond. And I will explain soulmate bond later. It's just this video is already getting too long. So again, everything's about reality. What is reality? Reality is physicality, and therefore you can say that what happens physically is then the truth. I'll quickly add that. So that I don't forget to do it later. So, but there is 2 kinds of truths. There is the truth, which is physical, and then there's your truths. So your truth is your own. You don't owe your truth to anybody. But everything is about reality, physical reality. So I always had an interest in physics, and I've taken it upon myself to kind of try and interpret what the math is saying could possibly be the reality of what is happening. And of course, I made a video on this called Mechanics of Time, Blueprint of the Universe. And so this is actually really important because I personally need this to be proven or disproven, because I have specific memories from everlasting life about the design of the universe. And that's what my theory is based on, what I learned in EL. So to me, if they can prove that's true, and the gist of it is, the present moment happens only once in infinity. There's no physical past and there's no physical future. Only the present moment is physicality. So everything happens only once. There's no physical past is really important because during my first awakening, God said to me in a memory several times, forgiveness is in the design. Forgiveness is in the design. I didn't understand what it meant then. But what I understand now is that literally it is in the physical design of the universe that on Judgment Day, when God chooses to forget, even God cannot look back upon the past and see what you've done as infant intelligence and then have those negative thoughts. Not that God has negative thoughts, but have that, what you've done, that you could possibly feel shame and guilt about. So forgiveness is in the design means that there's no record of the past. Everything happens only once. You cannot physically travel to the past. It's impossible for matter to exit the present time dimension. And relativity proves this. And the future is a place of all possibilities, and quantum mechanics proves that. Because of the location of where the future comes from and where the past is. So it's actually really quite fun and interesting. So go watch that video. But if it proves to be buhagi, go ahead, laugh at me. I don't care. But it's important to me that it's proven to be true, because like I said, I obtained the knowledge from EL through memories, or the gist of the knowledge. It took me 10 years to come to what it is today. So know that I am Ascareth, born 12 universe cycles ago on an infant intelligence planet, much like the Earth. I was born here in 77. My name is Helena, but my soul is Ascareth's. And that is how God does it. So it's kind of like reincarnation in a way. So God has the power to withdraw our souls. And when we choose ourselves, insert that soul into the conceived biology on that infant intelligence planet. And this is, of course, how God was able to conceive even Jesus, because God has the power to do that. And then, of course, God has the power to resurrect. That's why Jesus had to be resurrected, to prove to you that God will resurrect you in everlasting life if you die before Judgment Day. If you wake up on Judgment Day, you will never die. You will never experience death, ever. You will live for infinity. And I know the concept it's very, very hard, but think about it as God's gift. Infinite life, everlasting life is a gift from God. And I remember being in everlasting life. And by the way, 99.9% of people who are in EL are born in EL. Very small minority of people are from infant intelligence planets. And I remember just laying there in bed with my husband, with my head on his chest, and listening to his heartbeat and thinking, this heartbeat has beat for 30 universe cycles. And if every universe cycle is 20 billion years, and I just remember thinking how unbelievable it is. And I guess that's like a gift, to be born infant intelligence, is to understand death in a way that people from everlasting life don't. Animals die, yes. Animals don't have souls. Animals only experience the present. They're only here once. And so we know we get sad when our pets die, and that's why we have unique pets in everlasting life. That's a God's gift too. But I'm getting ahead of myself. What I'm trying to say is that when I die, a spirit will awaken in everlasting life with no memory of my life experience here. So, as spirit is my true existence, this is not my true existence. This is not who I am in everlasting life. It's kind of complex. And, if you awaken, I got to talk to you about the experience and the process of remembering yourself from everlasting life, and how it's kind of like this. I know, well, it's kind of reshaping for me, because at the beginning it was really hard for me to accept I am a spirit. But now I'm starting to, it's like I'm merging and getting it's really, it's tough, but fun. So yes, I'm not special in any way. I do not have any unique special knowledge. Everybody in everlasting life, we all have the same knowledge about the universe and about God. And this is known as combined intelligence. So think of combined intelligence as like the hive mind, like think of like the Borg and how they all share the same knowledge and they all have the same knowledge about reality because they're telepathic. Well, telepathy is impossible, but society is kind of like the hive mind, right? We all repeat the same things. We're all right now grouped up, sadly. But the definition of combined intelligence is everything you know about everything you think you know and everything you think you know about everything everyone else knows. So I have the combined intelligence from everlasting life. That means that I remember what I know from EL, but I also remember knowing what other people know, and we all agree on the same reality. So God will not judge, and neither will Jesus. Jesus has lived out his purpose on the earth. Jesus will not be back until the day after Judgment Day. So on Judgment Day is a very, very busy day. Lots will happen on Judgment Day, including that within that 24-hour period, alien intelligence will descend upon the earth in great numbers and they will clean up the entire earth. And I'm talking garbage, oil spills, chemical spills. That will all be cleaned up on Judgment Day. It's going to be a very, very busy day. So if you choose to stay on the earth, you might take part in help cleaning it up. But I also hope in a way that we will begin that we will start cleaning up the earth. So, kind of embarrassing what we're doing to the earth. So Jesus was here to tell us how to think and feel in order to choose everlasting life. So you don't have to believe anything I say, but consider yourself informed. Now that I've told you. Now you know you can't have slaves. And you have to do good deeds in order to wake up on Judgment Day. So when Judgment Day comes, it would have been your choice whether you woke up or didn't. So that's what the Awakening Era is for. It's proof and evidence. I hope you enjoy the read. My carefully chosen most happiest memories about my life before I joined everlasting life and thereafter. So, to finish, I just want to tell you a little bit about my plans. I have, of course, written Judgment Day and thereafter. I'm in the editing process, so I'm just giving it one last read. I'm a perfectionist. I've done this way too many times, so this is going to be the last time, and then I'm going to publish it for free on Amazon. In the meantime, I will do chapter readings on for YouTube, just for those people who would maybe want to listen while they're busy doing stuff. I know we're all busy and not everybody has time to read, but I really want this book out there. And then what I have planned is for the Awakening Era is a few things. I designed an app, Personal Enterprise Worldwide, Pew, which is designed to help you increase your income. So I'm not promising you wealth and great riches, although many, 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 many people worldwide will make a lot of money. And I've designed it to at least increase for the average Joe at least by $2,000 American a month. That's what the purpose of Pew. So I'm not worried about those people who get really, really rich. What I want is increase the number of people that make at least double their income. And then I've been writing videos to music, and I made a list called Judgment Day and Thereafter Soundtrack. And that's the music that I have picked out right now, to which I will make videos. Of course, I talk about this like I'm gonna do it, but really, this is all based on financial ability to, you know, be able to fund all this. So, unfortunately, I hope this happens in your lifetime, but it might not even happen in mine. I don't know. I don't know what will happen. I just decided to just do it. So, and then I don't know when Judgment Day will happen. The intelligence virus is very prevalent. But actually, and I keep forgetting this, during my second awakening, uh, I had the memory of God saying to me, the awakening era on the earth will be very special. I don't know how, but that is what God said to me. It was a few times. Sometimes I had to have stuff repeated in order to understand its significance. So maybe I'm hoping that my UFO videos will help me get the attention that I need. So I have the videos planned to music. And then I just did some other writing because, again, I said I don't know how long. It could be another 80 or 100 years before Judgment Day. So I took it upon myself to reinvent Western society and reinvent Western education. And so this is just society is the governance, education is the education. And that will all be possible use with the app Pew. So I'm going to end this video here. I'm sorry it's so long. My next video, I'm going to be reading chapter 1. Peace.